Good morning. If I can call the meeting to order, please. I can call the meeting to order. Hillary, do we have public speakers?
Yes, we have 5 public speakers today. The first is Jason Chinfat from the Strap Hangers campaign.
Good morning, Board. Good morning, Chairman Walder. My name is Jason Chinfat, and I am the field organizer for the Strap Hangers campaign. And the Strap Hangers campaign is here to talk to you about the issue regarding Long Island Bus. The Strap Hangers campaign strongly urges Nassau County to increase their contributions for Long Island Bus. Our campaign also hopes that the MTA will be able to work with Nassau County to come to an agreement that will fully fund our buses and keep Nassau County moving. Last week I spent a good day or so at Nassau Community College and collected over 1,300 signatures of students that are angry about the cuts that have been proposed to Long Island Bus. At Nassau Community College, 3 of the buses that are proposed to be cut are actually, going to affect the students. 2 of them won't run to campus anymore, and 1 of them won't run on Saturdays to take students to class. According to what we've heard from Nassau Community College, about half of the students that go to that school, 23,000 plus students, won't be able to get to school because they rely on those buses to get to campus. So today, we collected some of the, last week when I was there, I collected some of the stories that some of the students and professors and faculty had on campus. So I just wanted to share some of those with you. The first story, my name is Nathaniel, and I'm a sophomore at NCC, Nassau Community College. Without the N45 during the week and the N16 bus on the weekend, I won't be able to afford to get to school and get an education. Mary, a professor at NCC, says, the gas prices are making it unaffordable to take my kids to their activities on the weekends. If they take away the N47 and the N50, I won't be able to afford to take my kids to dance class and soccer practice. Latanya, a freshman at NCC, says that my family doesn't even own a car. We all work and depend on the bus to get to work. I depend on buses to also get to school. If you take away my bus, I won't be able to do either. And as a student-based organization, we deeply are concerned about the privatization of Long Island Bus and what it will mean for in regards to affordable fares for Nassau Community College students and the folks in Nassau County. After all the stories I brought today, and just want to wrap up, after all the stories that I brought with me here today are just an example of how these people in this community are going to be affected by the Long Island Bus cuts. And we hope that you and Nassau County can come to some sort of agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chinfat.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Veronica Vanterpool from Tri-State Transportation Campaign.
Good morning. My name is Veronica Vanterpool, Associate Director of the Tri-State Transportation Campaign, a regional policy watchdog organization working for better transit and transportation policy in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Sometime this summer, at least 16,000 bus riders in Nassau County will lose their bus service because the MTA and Nassau County Executive Mangano have not reached a funding agreement to run Long Island Bus's 48 bus routes and paratransit services. The MTA has proposed providing service commensurate with the level of funding provided currently by Nassau County to run the bus, which is $9.1 million. That means the MTA will cut 25 of 48 bus routes and 18% of able ride service. County Executive Mangano has countered with a privatization proposal to end its relationship with the MTA. The county believes it can get the same level of bus service from a private operator for a $2 million price tag. That is misguided and unrealistic. Nassau County is getting a bargain basement deal from the MTA that no other suburban county enjoys. Westchester County's bus system, which provides service for roughly the same amount of riders as Nassau County, pays $33 million a year for its privatized service. And for this price, they get 175,000 fewer hours of service than Long Island Bus. The amount of Suffolk County pays $24 million a year, and their bus service is 1/6 the size of Long Island Bus. The amount of bus service that can conceivably be funded with $2 million sends a message to the 100,000 daily Long Island bus riders that they are not a priority. Long Island Bus was created in 1973 because of the failure of the private market to adequately provide good bus service on Long Island at reasonable fares. By privatizing now, County Executive Mangano is proposing to bring LI Bus to the heydays of 1970s transit. County Executive Mangano needs to get serious about the transportation crisis facing his constituents. At today's hearing, Long Island Voices will tell the County Executive to shelve this misguided privatization proposal and put bus riders, the economy, and the future of Long Island first by increasing the county's contribution to its bus system. Come back to the table, County Executive Mangano, and work out a fair deal with the MTA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brody Enoch from the Transportation Alternatives.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brody Enoch, and I work with Transportation Alternatives, and I actually manage a campaign called the Rider Rebellion. The Rider Rebellion is a coalition of riders who are actually fed up with the fare hikes and service cuts that have gone on over the last couple of years. In a very short time, we have almost 15,000 riders who have signed our Bill of Rights, which is a document that is just so simply says that we as riders have certain rights. In that short time, we've been able to have a couple of senatorial debates. We actually had a vote transit rally in the park. It was really cool, and I had a good time, and I think everybody out there did. You guys are in the unenviable position of having to make some tough decisions and some tough choices, and I don't envy you. I don't, the decisions you make are way above my pay scale. I can't stand here and tell you that I know how to run a system this large. I have a Lino train set I still can't put together, so how you guys run this system, I have no idea. But what I do know is that over the last few years, our riders have had to go through some severe hardship because of the fare hikes and the service cuts. And we're not here to blame you. We understand. We all in this room understand where the problem is. The problem is that there's not enough funding for this system. And what we do at the Rider Rebellion is we're actually out there asking our elected officials to make sure that there is dedicated funding for the system. This great city of ours was built on this system, and it can only survive by this system. So we need you to join with us to actually become part of the Rider Rebellion. As a matter of fact, you are the original rebels, because the Rider Rebellion is out there fighting for the rights of transit riders, and that's what you guys do on a daily basis. The Rider Rebellion is out there asking our elected officials to provide more money, and that's what you do out there on a daily basis. So I'm asking you now, as a collective body, to become part of the Rider Rebellion. And if you can't do it as a body, you can simply take out your cell phone and text the word REBEL to 30644, and you will join us as rebels. We need your help. We will march hand in hand together, arm in arm to Albany, and let our elected officials know that the riders, that labor, and the board are willing to stand up together and say, stop stealing our money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Enoch. The next speaker is Chris Tobin, TW.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Chairman Walder and the board. In spite of the massive budget cuts that have been heaped on New York City Transit, I applaud the board and the employees for continuing to maintain the highest level of service that New Yorkers have continued to rely on. Whether you come here to visit, work, or live, we will continue as employees to maintain the highest level of service that you can depend on. We will work with management. We look forward to working with the board. Most importantly, we look forward to responding to the needs of the board to help New York City Transit maintain its premier status in the nation and the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tobin. Our last speaker is Murray Bowden.
Good morning, Chairman Walder. Just for the record, we've never met and I've never spoken to you personally. The 2 minutes that you give us to public comment here is about what we need to say hello and give you our thoughts, because the decisions you're going to decide today have all been decided at committee meetings last Monday. I went to 4 committee meetings. At the bus committee, there was issues brought up that were not known to me before the meeting. I didn't have all the materials because they're not on the web. And it would have been appropriate there for me to have 1 minute to speak on the issues that were brought up, in particular buses of a particular size and configuration. I think I could have added to that discussion and given information to the board that would have been relevant at that time. So I suggest that you consider changing the public speaking at committee meetings where business is done. Today, you only approve it, to the point where when something is brought up, we've been given a minute, 60 seconds is plenty, to make a small comment that would add to the information before the committee voted. That's vastly different. David Sampson at the Port Authority changed that kind of rule, and he said, if you want something, ask for it. He was talking to me because I was the only one asking anything. I asked, and the meetings were arranged. Those small changes for the future would help us help you. Thank you.
That concludes the public speaking comment.
Thank you. Before we start the regular business of this meeting, I wanted to ask the board to take a moment of silence in memory of Nassau County Police Officer Jeffrey Brykoff, who died tragically in an accidental shooting with the MTA police last week. With the investigation ongoing at this time, we can't talk about the details of the incident, but it is an unquestionable tragedy. And so I ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the family of Police Officer Brykoff. If I can ask for a vote, please, to approve the minutes of the February board meeting. In favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. If I'm going to report from the Committee on Finance, Andrew?
Mr. Chairman, there are two action items. The first action item is for approval of the 2010 annual procurement report. The second action item is for approval of the supplemental resolution authorizing refunding of bonds. The committee recommends these actions, and I move them.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
There are two non-competitive procurements in the amount of $153,500. I move these procurements.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
There is one competitive procurement in the amount of $115,000. I move this procurement.
In favor? Aye. Opposed?
There is one ratification for $52,800. I move this ratification.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
There are 6 real estate action items this month, which are described in the board materials, which include the all-agency real property disposition guidelines and all-agency personnel property disposition guidelines. I move the real estate action items.
In favor?
Mr. Chairman, if I could be negative on the third item under MTA action items under the real estate, please, on the Anheuser-Busch sponsorship. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That's noted for the record.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? In favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you. I have your record, Mitch.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, this concludes our Finance Committee report.
Thank you. The Committee on Transit Operations. Doreen, please.
Good morning. This month there are 8 procurements totaling $13.9 million. There are no non-competitive procurements this month. The 6 competitive total $7.1 million. The committee recommends them, and I move them.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And finally, there are 2 ratifications in the amount of $6.8 million. These are also recommended by the committee, and I move them.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That concludes it.
Thank you very much. The Committee on Bus Operations.
There are no non-competitive procurements. However, please note that one non-competitive procurement with MB Sales and Leasing has been put aside for now. There are 3 competitive procurements in the amount of $618,000. The committee recommended these, and I move them.
Second.
In favor? Opposed? Thank you.
There are no ratifications, so I conclude the report.
Okay, thank you. Before we move on from buses, I'd just like to update people briefly on the status of Long Island Bus. As everyone on the board knows, Nassau County budgeted only $9 million to support Long Island Bus this year. And as a result, earlier this year, the board chose to begin exploring ways that we could continue providing service within the funding envelope provided by the county. To state the point made earlier, local bus service in each of the suburban counties are the responsibility of the county to meet the operating deficit of that service. Consistent with that exploration, we'll be holding a public hearing later today at Hofstra University to gather input on the proposed changes. In the meantime, last week, Nassau County publicly stated its intention to privatize Long Island Bus and sever its ties with the MTA. The county has requested a meeting with MTA staff. I expect we'll learn more about how the county intends to proceed when that meeting takes place. There has been no communication directly between the county and the MTA to this point, so I'm only restating what we have read in the newspapers. But, as I've always said, the bus system is owned by the county, and we respect their right to choose the direction that they want to have for it. Because we don't know how this will play out, we have a responsibility to proceed with tonight's public hearing and the subsequent actions to ensure that we operate within the funding that we have available. I think the announcement by the county executive, at least the public statement that the county executive has made, makes the point in the public hearing notice about the potential termination of service very relevant. Obviously, we've said that it's the county's decision in terms of doing it. We will be listening, of course, to all of the public comment that is made on this topic. I think we all understand the difficulties that this causes, and I continue to hope that there will be a way out that is effective both for the county and for the people of Nassau County who rely on the bus system. But I do think it's essential that we continue with the public hearing process that we have today and move forward in that direction. So, the hearing today begins at 3 p.m. It's at Hofstra University.
While I totally agree with everything that you and the public speakers have said, I think there is an unspoken connection between users of Long Island Bus and either the subway system in Queens or the Long Island Railroad, and it's entirely possible that if some of those folks can't use the system anymore due to Nassau County's inability or unwillingness to pay, that could also affect some of our other services, because if somebody's getting a ride, then they may not also take that trip on the subway or the Long Island Railroad to connect to Long Island Bus. So I think these things are all interconnected and just something to keep in mind.
Thank you. I would move to the report from the Metro North and Long Island committees. Mitch, I think it's your turn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are two non-competitive procurements for Metro North in the total amount of $9.75 million. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
In favor? Opposed?
And there are 7 competitive procurements, one for Long Island Railroad, one for Metro North, and 5 for MTA Capital Construction, in the total amount of $28.91 million. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
In favor? Opposed?
And there are no ratifications this month.
Thank you. We move to the report from the Bridges and Tunnels Committee.
Mr. Chairman, Bridges and Tunnels Committee met on Monday and recommends the following. There are no non-competitive procurements. There are 3 competitive procurements in the amount of $1.9 million. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And there are no ratification, and this concludes the Bridges and Tunnels Committee report.
Thank you very much. The final committee actions are the Corporate Governance Committee. We have 2 action items there. The first action item is the approval of the mission statement and the measurement report. This was discussed at the Governance Committee held on Monday. And the second action item is for approval of the procurement guidelines. This updates the all-agency procurement guidelines for procurement and services. The Governance Committee has recommended all of these actions, and I move them.
Second.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We have need for an executive session. If I could request a vote of the board to go into executive session to discuss matters of security and public safety, as well as to discuss a matter relating to the proposed litigation pursuant to Sections 105, subsection 1A and D of the Public Offices Law.
Motion made.
In favor? Okay. Thank you. We can clear the room, except for the people who need to be here for these two matters. Thank you. Okay.
Jay, why not consider a ban on food like the CAP has, Washington has, in the subway?
Look, I think we all have a responsibility to try to treat our subway system and our fellow riders with respect. I think that extends to food as well. This is a system that carries 5 million people a day, and I'm not sure that a ban on food is really practical or enforceable. I don't think that takes away from our obligation, every one of us as New Yorkers, to treat the system, treat people with respect, and to keep our system clean for all the reasons that are obvious to us.
You put the Towers like M8 on the line 2 weeks ago, and how's it going so far, and how long will it be till you be able to get them all online?
We have 2 trains that are in service right now. A third train that I think is imminently to come over because the first trains were being built in Japan. I think the production schedule extends out over, I think, 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. Howard might have the Howard, is that right? 3 years? Is that the production schedule? The production schedule extends out over 3 years. The production shifts from the first cars which were produced in Japan to the cars being produced in the U.S. And we'll be moving them into play as quickly as possible. I think our plans call for 100 cars, if I'm not mistaken. 80 cars by the end of the year.
4 weeks ago, I asked you about the escalators, and you said that, and also in Albany, you testified there were problems. You're going to revamp, but you weren't able to give a date or a plan. And so, do you have a date and plan to when you're going to present to the Transit Committee? And also, are you approaching the city about dealing with the private escalators, which are still down, like at 53rd and Lex?
We are dealing with both parts of that. We are working on a plan now. We will come back to our board when we have that plan to be able to do that. And we are trying to find more effective ways of being able to deal with the people as private entities who are responsible for escalators and elevators in our system. When we have it, we'll come back to the board.
On the New Haven line, are you still having the problem? First of all, what's the schedule for expanding the repair yards? And are you still having the problem of having too many trains to repair but not enough space to repair them?
Howard, do you want to take the New Haven line? Sure. Be careful of the wires.
So on this, I'm sorry, which gentleman? Oh, so on the repair facilities, we still have a backlog of cars that we are fixing, that we have not fully reached that backlog, but we brought it down enough that we're able to reintroduce a regular schedule with on March 7th, which we've been able to operate largely with the right number of cars. So that immediate crisis has largely been resolved. On the broader issue, the state of Connecticut is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to expand and provide improved and, quite frankly, adequate facilities in New Haven. And that's a multi-year project. The biggest, very little of it has been completed so far. The next major milestone is the completion of a new shop facility, which is about 2 to 3 years away from today.
I should say, by the way, there is no question that the New Haven line situation this year has been very, very difficult. I am tremendously impressed by the way that our company, our employees, worked on this problem. We've looked for alternatives across our business to be able to, how we get capacity to be able to deal with this. We've moved equipment from New Haven to our shops at Harmon, where we were able to undertake more work. We've been working on a round-the-clock basis to be able to deal with it. And after a period in which we had a reduced schedule, Metro-North has worked very, very hard to have the full schedule back in place on the New Haven line. I think one of the things that it underscores is the importance of capital investment. The problem that we had on the New Haven line this year is clearly the result of a failure to make investments over the course of many years in dealing with the fleet that was there, in dealing with the catenary that was there, in dealing with the shop that was there. And I think that in essence, we paid the price for that several years on, exacerbated, of course, by the snowstorm. And we'll be paying that price for some time to come. And I think that's an unfortunate result of what happens when capital investments get left behind.
Momentum seems to be building in Albany for a repeal of the payroll tax. Senator Ball is pushing for it, also calling for an audit. How nervous does that make you?
I think the importance of the payroll tax is something that I've testified on up in Albany. It provides $1.4 billion a year to the MTA. To put that in some context, the service cuts that we enacted last year, which clearly were very significant and very harmful to people, saved $92 million. That is, the payroll mobility tax is 15 times the size of the actions that we took a year ago to be able to reduce service. I think all of the legislators in Albany understand the importance of the payroll mobility tax. Of course, it's up to them to make the choices about what the taxes are that support the MTA.
On the Long Island buses, how much notice must Nassau County give the MTA? Is it 60 days or 90 days? And would you say it's almost a foregone conclusion that by this summer there will be cutbacks on those Long Island buses regardless of who's running it?
I think in terms of the legal process, I believe it's 60 days, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if Jim is here, but I think it's 60 days. The process that we have to go through, as we're doing and starting off today, is a public hearing process. The reality is that the county is responsible for its bus system. It owns the bus system. It's responsible for funding and meeting the deficit on the bus system. And it has to date only allocated $9.1 million for a system that has an operating deficit after fares and state subsidies of $33 million. I think one way or another this has to be able to align service with the money that's available to be able to operate that service. If the county decides that it wants to move forth with privatization, the MTA has consistently said, and I would repeat, that the bus system is owned by the county. It is their choice as to how they would like to provide the service. We believe we operate a good bus system and a good service out in Nassau County. But if the county decides that they want to go a different way, we will be fully cooperative with them to facilitate the transfer if that's what they want.
But if they take it over and the MTA no longer basically subsidizes it, wouldn't it be fair to say that the riders will be hurt, that there will be less service?
I can't say that. I don't know anything about their plans. I've had no conversations with Nassau County about their plans to privatize. I have no indication of the information that they've received from private vendors. I am simply going by the reports that I've read in the newspaper in which the county executive has indicated his desire to privatize, but I have no further information about it.
Who owns the equipment, the buses, the infrastructure, and is it all paid off? I mean, would they assume all the equipment if they own the system?
The county owns the equipment, and it would go to them.
The county also owns the depot as well.
The county owns the depots. The county owns the movable assets as well. The county owns all of the equipment.
Mr. Chairman, you are a student of New York City streets. It was
I'm afraid to think about where this is going.
It was recently discovered that city-owned bus stop signs on the Fifth Avenue sidewalk along Central Park refer to the nearby cross streets with a west prefix rather than an east. There are two schools of thought on this. One is that is technically correct because Fifth Avenue is the east-west divider on the grid. Others feel that is misleading and not useful for customers, suggest that they may be on the west side of the city. Just curious whether you might have an opinion either way.
My opinion is that I'm much more concerned about getting the signs right for uptown and downtown than I am for anything else right now.
The Journal has an article about the sale of some MTA properties, including this building. How serious are those talks?
Well, as you know, we have worked over the last year to overhaul the MTA's business to be able to reduce the cost of our business, to be able to reduce the size of our workforce and make ourselves more efficient. As part of that, we are looking at our property portfolio. We're looking at the way in which we utilize space. And that is a very serious look that we are taking. It concerns this building. It concerns other properties that the MTA has. It's the appropriate thing to do in the context of overhauling our business, and we're doing that.
Would you move out of New York City proper?
We haven't made any decisions about exactly what we would do, so we're looking at that right now. I think it's probably fair to say that there will always be a presence in New York City, but that does not mean that all of the things that we currently do within the 5 boroughs or even within Manhattan have to be located in the places that they are right now. Changes in technology, as we all know, have changed the nature of some of this, have made it easier to be able to facilitate interactions in a way that might not have been possible even just a few years ago. And we're considering all of those options to what we could do in Manhattan, throughout the 5 boroughs, throughout the MTA region, and perhaps throughout the rest of the state, even in some cases, as a means of being able to do things.